Imagine this scenario. An argument starts up between two people. They are arguing about which is better, PlayStation or Xbox. The argument continues until one of them mentions that the PlayStation has better games. Person number 2 immediately says that they are not allowed to say this and it is offensive. Person number 1 says that it's true and attempts to list the games on the PlayStation. Person number 2 cuts them off and says they can't have that opinion. Now the argument has stopped, and they can't actually find out which may be better, all because one of their opinions is not appealing to the other. This is an example of free speech being suppressed. Today's political climate has become increasingly heated due to the growth of the gap between political parties. Opposing opinions are looked down upon and repressed. These opinions are repressed in various ways, but one of the leading ways is through suppressing free speech. Free speech is a value Americans have grown up with without even considering how important it is. Thoughts being spread about freely and talked about critically is one of the greatest freedoms someone can have. Free speech is not about spreading hate, it is about spreading opinions. Free speech was first instituted into America through the Second Amendment in the Constitution. It has remained stable ever since as a valued human right. But recent political movements may try to say otherwise. Recently, some people have questioned the value of free speech and have even thought about forming laws to prohibit free speech. These movements are increasingly hostile against opposing opinions, and even violence has been used. Sam Harris, a philosopher and neuroscientist, reflects on the use of violence to prohibit free speech in this quote: "The moment you're using violence to prevent someone from speaking, you are on the wrong side of the argument, by definition." Universities and college campuses are not thought of as spaces for critical thinking anymore. Some people want these campuses to coddle and protect them. They want a safe space to be provided so they don't have to experience opinions they don't agree with. As Barack Obama states, the purpose of college is to create a space where a lot of ideas are present and collide. He also says, "I've heard of some college campuses where they don't want to have a guest speaker who is too conservative, or they don't want to read a book if it has language that is offensive to African Americans or somehow sends a demeaning signal toward women." I've got to tell you, I don't agree with that either. I don't agree that you, when you become students at colleges, have to be coddled and protected from different points of view. But college campuses are just the beginning. Canada has already diminished free speech. In 2017, Canada issued a bill called Bill C-16 that forced people to use preferred pronouns. On the surface, this seems harmless, but a glance at what the law entails is frightening. As Dr. Norman Doidge, a faculty member at the University of Toronto's Department of Psychiatry, states, "If there's an idea that is forbidden, then there's something similar to it or connected to it that's arguably forbidden. It is a kind of exercise of scrupulosity that is not self-limiting. Once free speech is broken, or even just fractured, collapse of it entirely is inevitable." Prohibiting free speech is used to silence opposing opinions that people don't want to hear. Another method used to reduce free speech is through class guilt. People are grouped together by a certain identity and are then valued based on how privileged they are. If they are too privileged, then their opinions are silenced and not valued. This was the same method the USSR used when the workers revolted. Anyone in a higher class was not valued at all. People should not be valued based on their race or class, but their thoughts. True speech, a term used by Jordan Peterson, is about people trying to speak the truth. The following quote from Jordan Peterson explains why true speech is so important. "You have to stumble around when you're first formulating ideas and wander into territory that's not necessarily productive and manifest your biases. In short, you have to be a fool. The only way you improve upon that performance is by stumbling through it to begin with, and second, by observing carefully what kind of reactions you're getting and having a dialogue around it. Speaking your mind and what you truly believe is important. When you state what you believe, others can criticize it and provide useful feedback, stating what they believe also. Free speech is necessary for true speech to exist." Now imagine the scenario I gave you again. Person number 2 mentions that there are better games on PlayStation and lists them. Now person number 1 tries to argue against that by stating the good games on an Xbox. A new narrative has opened up where each person is discovering what good games may be on the opposing console. They now can continue arguing and discover an opinion that, although different, could still be a good opinion. If someone's view is not yours, then silencing that view is not the solution. People need to think critically about others' opinions and debate them. Different political views should be discussed freely. People need freedom to choose their political alliances and can only have this freedom with free speech. Without this, a true democracy cannot exist.